Hi, Asia. I am Bailey, the HR hiring manager for Growth Therapy. And I just want to start by saying thank you for your interest in wanting to join our team. We would love to have you. And thank you for being flexible in the scheduling of this interview, since I know everybody does have busy lives. So, since this job is remote, I did want to start by asking if you are licensed in Illinois.
So unfortunately, I'm not licensed in Illinois yet. It'll probably take me a little bit after I graduate in order to become licensed, but of course, I do plan on becoming licensed in Illinois if I get the job.
Okay, perfect. Um, Have you ever counseled clients on concerns such as divorce, separation, or home management? If so, describe the experience as best you can.
Well, of course, I haven't done it in a professional setting because, I'm not a professional yet, but we all have given advice to our friends and, our family members and things of that nature. So I have given advice with like things like divorce and separation and home management, but I haven't given professional counseling.
Okay. Um, have you ever had to deal with a difficult person?
So yeah, of course we have to deal with difficult people throughout our lives. Actually before coming to college, I worked at a grocery store, so I encountered difficult people pretty much every day. It's unfortunate, but the best thing that I can do is I just try to remain patient. I lived with three little kids, so patience has truly become a virtue. So as long as I can be patient with these people, it doesn't really matter.
What kind of questions have you found helpful that will help clients identify their feelings and behaviors? I guess
Well,
I'm asking what questions will you pose to your clients that will make them think about themselves deeper?
right. So of course you have the generic, well, how do you feel about that? How does that make you feel? But I always tend to ask people like, what about you do you want to change? And what are you aware of? Because the minute you become self-aware about a behavior that you don't particularly like, that's when you want to work to change it. So like if I didn't like the fact that I bite my nails, of course I'm going to try and work very hard at the fact so I can stop biting my nails, but some people need that outside motivation. So that's what I want to be.
Okay. Um, when it comes to being a therapist, organization and planning and scheduling is vital to success. So, how do you organize and plan to ensure that you are successful in your career? Or how will you if you get the job?
Mm. So currently, since I'm in college, I do a lot of handwritten, just little sticky notes everywhere. I use a lot of digital formatting. Ever since COVID and things went purely digital, I've actually found that it's a lot easier to just have everything on my laptop. So I use a digital platform. It's called Notion, and I can just lay everything out like however I want. I have a whiteboard that sits in front of me, like in front of my desk. And so I just kind of jot down little things like that. But in terms of organization, I've always considered myself to be a pretty organized person. So I do think that if I were to get the job, organization and things of that nature wouldn't be difficult for me. And I'm very good with time management. So
Mhm. And I myself am interested in Notion. Do you have to pay a subscription for that?
no, it's completely free. I've seen so many people on like YouTube talk about it. So I
Okay.
wanted to try it because of course I can't write on my whiteboard when I'm in class.
Right.
But I really like it.
Okay.
It's really easy and it's literally just like a to-do list. So you just write it all down on your laptop, your phone, your iPad, whatever. And then as you go through it, like literally just checks it off and then you
Oh,
just keep.
wow. I'll have to look into that for my own organization. Um, Give me an example of when you thought outside of the box.
So I used to be in a club called FCCLA. It's Family Career Community Leaders of America. So I used to be in that. And so I was the state president at the time before I left. So I had to do a lot of out of the box thinking. One thing that really I thought was outside of the box was in order to get people to come back, after COVID and everything, we really had to think of different things for us to do. So I decided that it would be a good idea, like why don't we have like a drawing to see who can have the most new members come in, and then we'll give them a prize, because it's all about encouraging people to come.
Right.
So I think that when I personally think that was outside of the box, especially for that particular organization, because although they focus on membership, it's not really like a big thing. They can do anything with just two people. So I thought, well, hey, let's get some new people because we can always use more people.
Right. As a therapist, and yes, this one is for marriage and family counseling, but just for mental health and for kids in general, it's important to be sensitive to feelings. So provide an example of when you practice sensitivity to someone's feelings.
Okay. So like I said, I used to live with three little children. So my youngest niece, her name is Leah. She had a very hard time um explaining herself. Her words would kind of get slurred. I mean, she's only three, but even when a little child like that, she's still gonna get frustrated that she can't
Right.
explain herself. So at that point, I would really just have to kind of sit her down and just get her to understand that I'm gonna listen to you for however long that you have to speak. You don't have to cry, you don't have to yell, so long as you're gonna talk to me, I'm gonna listen. So I feel like I always am very sensitive when it comes to her, just because, I understand as an adult how much it sucks to stutter really bad and then feel like, oh my God, like I have to get my words out. So I can only imagine how it feels to be three and have to deal with that same thing and not know how to handle it.
Right. And that's really good that you notice that even as young as 3, feelings are valid and it's important to validate them and let them know that they're being heard.
Right.
Um, at work, obviously, you have your typical responsibilities, and sometimes people will just meet them and do the minimum amount to get by. And that's absolutely fine. But would you say that you typically go above and beyond your typical call of duty?
I would say yes. Even relating back to FCCLA, a lot of the times people in my cluster of my executive council, they wouldn't do, what they're supposed to do. So I would kind of find myself, filling in their roles and doing things that they were supposed to do, just so that way everything could keep running smoothly. Because it's a student-led organization. So if we don't do anything, nothing's going to get done.
Right.
So I that really became a habit of mine to kind of go above and beyond. And also, like, if I were to get the job, these clients, I'm not looking at them as clients, I'm looking at them as my family because this is something that I relate very closely to. So I would want to go above and beyond for them 100%.
How would you approach counseling a couple who is struggling with infidelity?
That one's a little hard for me just because I have my own big personal opinion on infidelity. I personally feel like infidelity is a deal breaker. However, if there is a couple that does want to work that infidelity, I think it's important for them to understand that sometimes infidelity can come from nowhere, and other times it's a deep rooted issue. So if you can find out what the deep rooted issue is, then we can move forward. However, if it's just something that you did on a whim, then it becomes a little bit more difficult to counsel because I can't help you with the decisions that you just want to make off the top of your head.
Right. Now, if a couple did come to you and it was just something that happens on a whim, would you be upfront with them that you may not have the tools in your toolbox to assist them there and refer them to another coupling counselor that could better assist them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when it comes to things such as marriage and family therapy, if I don't have the tools to help you, and if I personally feel like my biases will prevent me from helping you in the best way possible, I would just refer you to someone else. If you feel like your relationship is worth fighting for, I don't want to step in the way of that.
Perfect. What would you do if you felt a client was not making the progress that you intend for them to make through your treatment plan?
Well, of course, I feel like there are always going to be setbacks when counseling someone. That's kind of the point of counseling, to help you push through those setbacks. But if I feel like they weren't meeting like specific goals that I have for them, I would just want to sit them down and ask if they're actually doing work outside of our therapy sessions. Of course, we're sitting here and we're talking about it and we're getting through it. But if you don't take and apply what we're talking about here outside, it's as if you're just talking to a brick wall, you know.
Right.
So if you're not meeting my goals, what are you doing outside of these four walls that I cannot see?
Right. You're right. It is really important for people who are going through therapy to hold themselves accountable because it's not enough to just show up for therapy and do the work in the hour. They have to do the work outside. Um, do you enjoy working with children, and what is your experience in doing so? I know you said that you grew up with young kids, but aside that.
So ironically, I actually don't like kids. I
Oh,
don't
wow.
like children, but I always find myself like being drawn to helping children. So when it comes to working with kids, I enjoy it despite not liking children. It
You like it
sounds
on a
very,
professional level.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it sounds so backwards, but to me, I enjoy helping children and I enjoy being around them, but only if I can give them back to their parents. Yeah,
You don't want to bring them home, huh?
no.
Okay, so we only have time for one more question. So I'm going to end with having you describe your personal philosophy on marriage and family.
So my personal philosophy is if it's broken, fix it. If it's broken to the point where you can't fix it, then sometimes it's best to let it go. Um, Especially when you have children involved. Although separation is really hard for young kids to go through, it's important for them to also see that sometimes things just aren't meant to work and that people have to go their separate ways in order to find the love of their life, as we so call it. Um, I was a young kid who watched her parents, struggle through that and it didn't work. And I feel like it's affected me in the way that I see relationships. So that's why I always, always, always say that sometimes relationships just aren't meant to be. It
Right.
doesn't matter the amount of time you spent together. You could be together 25 years. If that breaking point comes, sometimes you just have to let the relationship break.
Right. Well, I thank you for taking the time out of your evening to speak with me, and I will be speaking with the rest of the committee, getting second opinions, and then we'll be following up early next week.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.